Well, hello everyone. You have right here a talk about for music artists right here, and a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we do think about music, a lot of times that what exactly is it that we're thinking about a lot of times whenever it comes to music, a lot of times, and it's like whenever you do think about music, a lot of times do you necessarily think about it as toward that memories that we share or something like that. You may hear. A song by one of those music artists, and I think, that there's also, there's Taylor Swift and there's also Vance Joy and other music artists that you may have heard of to where that you would have these lyrics right here of the song right here. But, how often are we really going to maybe be thinking about is toward, can you really picture in your mind about is toward, you look at at the painting right here. And like everybody might say is toward, you may not know all the lyrics to the songs though, but it's like whenever you do think about that painting a picture of like, something that you would see, like I say for a portrait, right? And your 102 is toward it, whenever you do think about a painting a lot of times, that you might think is toward, so each time you do hear the song though, that you might be thinking is toward it. You're going to maybe be thinking about maybe a road trip that you had recently while you were singing along to the song, or maybe if it was at a concert or somewhere like that. But still, it's like you think about the song and 102. That you go ahead and you would actually paint a picture and 102 that that something like this right here for the song right here, and like everybody might say, is to where that whenever you do think about music, a lot of times that you necessarily get the idea just by looking at like any source of story catalog or any source of magazine, or maybe if it's possible a greeting card. And you want to know too is toward you go ahead and look at the left side of the greeting card right there, and there'll be like a picture right here of a source of artwork right here, and then it'll be like maybe music or maybe some sort of infographic or right there for the background, right? So it's like it sure seems that way that each time you do think about any source of music though by any source of music artist, right, and you're thinking is toward whenever you what exactly is it that you're thinking about whenever you do think about a lot of these music artists and to me though it's like that whenever you go ahead and paint a picture right here, but like everybody might say is toward you go ahead and paint a picture right here, but then if you go ahead and paint like people might say that you go ahead and draw the nose and the mouth along with the eyes right here, but really that how many of us maybe 102 that what part of the painting is toward you go ahead and paint the mustache. You go ahead and paint the mustache, and color in the mustache just a little bit, and while you're coloring the mustache, you're going to be singing along to the lyrics. And what's like if it's going to be maybe what's called like the song lyrics to one of those songs that you would hear about, and your 102 is to where those song lyrics a lot of times. And I can say that dancing or something like that. Like the dancing in the shell or something like that, and also it's like an reaching, like an I was thinking of you or something like that. You have memories that we share, and so other sorts of song lyrics, right? Other sorts of song lyrics. But while you're painting, though, that you're 102, that you go ahead and color in the beard and the mustache right there. So let's just say that, if you were to actually be working on a greeting card for anybody, that U102 is toward, that, how many artists would maybe 102 is to where, that what would that usually mean if the beard and the mustache was doing a variety of things? And let's just say that, if you wrote a love song to somebody, and let's just say that you go ahead and color in the beard right here, the beard and the mustache. The beard and the mustache is supposed to present is toward, yeah, that feeling about how you feel about the person, and also what exactly is it that you're trying to tell them. So every time you do think about that, you're like, yeah, like any country stars would even say too that, yeah, the country stars would say that, if you were to be writing a song, and let's just say that you want to go ahead and meet this person at that fancy restaurant or somewhere like that, and 102 that you want to go ahead and, yeah, ordering anything from the menu or something like that, and you would include something that says, yeah, for maybe for a special, something special on the menu or something like that. And so it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you're warned toward it, whenever you do think about music a lot of times, is that yeah, you think about music a lot of times, and you're one or two that, you picture in your mind, yeah, like everybody else might say that you actually picture in your mind toward it there's a microphone, and Mike, I could maybe draw an example of like a microphone or something like that, but like everybody says, to where most graphic artists would even say too that you go ahead and paint right there is a microphone right there. You paint the microphone right there, and as if you're actually are talking in that microphone, and let's just say that what you're trying to say to your audience would be is toward it, yeah, that anything in that microphone that you would like to talk to your audience about, and you're like I say is toward it, yeah, well, I actually, yeah, that talking to that microphone, and you're 102 that if you want to go ahead and tell everybody that yeah, I wrote this song, and I just not everybody would be able to understand that song until I was able to explain it to them a little bit more, later on. So it's like every time you do think about something like that, and you're 102, that yeah, not everybody is really going to understand what all they see, maybe until you explain to them, but like everybody else may say is toward it, yeah. Any musician, any magician, any musicians that are going to be talking about anything in particular, for sure, they'll probably say is toward it, yeah, that, how many graphic artists would even say too that, yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture of a music artist right there in a microphone right there. Let's just say if they were performing live, maybe on the live broadcasting station or something like that, and a 102 is toward it, yeah, that, I wrote this song for somebody special, and so yeah, so a lot of these music artists would say this to where that, you actually found that to be very fascinating, to where that you actually while you were singing, while you were writing the song to sing to somebody, that you were actually painting the details right there of the beard right there of the beard, and so it's like yeah, a lot of country artists might even, and music artists would even say that while you're singing a song that you're going to go ahead and be painting a picture right here, and it's like people might say is toward it, while they're singing the song, for sure, let's just say if it's for karaoke, that, it's possible that, maybe not everybody's really going to understand what all it means right here, and maybe a subtitle of the song, or maybe anything about what this means and what that means and all that, but still, it's like, every time you do think about that, you have right here is the beard right here, and then like everybody says, toward, yeah, if you want to go ahead and color in a little bit right here, the lips right here, but it's like, so it's like, yeah, every time you do think about that in 102, that, you hear these music artists on the radio a lot of times, and people are saying is toward, yeah, that, you hear these music artists a lot of times, and you're thinking is toward it while you're painting this picture right here of this music artist and think as to where, okay, yeah, that, you go ahead and, yeah. A lot of times, whenever I do my artwork, by the way, it sure seems that way that you want to kind of picture in your mind of, yeah, every time you hear a song, maybe one of your favorite songs, right? Every time you do hear a favorite song from one of your favorite music artists, a lot of times it sure seems that way that yeah, that you would like to maybe picture in your mind about is this tour that if you're going to maybe be going to a concert and maybe see them live or something like that, or anything about is this tour that what do you think that they would look like in real life or something like that, and so that's why it sure seems that way that every time you do think about a lot of music artists, by the way, that it's like, yeah, number one, that if we're talking about music artists, by the way, that everybody might even say that, you may not even know all the lyrics to that song, but still, that, if you go ahead and paint a picture right here of maybe the music artist right here, and 102 is toward, okay, yeah, while you're singing, you're going to go ahead and paint a picture right here in 102 that, yeah, so it's like, so every time you do think about that and want to know that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that you think about these music artists a lot of times. You may not know all the lyrics to the music, right? To the song, but still, it's like, what exactly does it remind you of necessarily? I'm like, really, that there's Vance Joy, and then there's a few other music artists that I was listening to on the radio stations, and it was like, yeah, that you hear these music artists a lot of times, and you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, that so whenever you do paint a picture of something in 102, that yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture right here of this music artist right here in 102, that yeah, you kind of get an idea of like everybody say that you go and look at the music right here, this picture of this music artist right here, and 102. Okay, yeah, that what exactly is it that's really telling you necessarily? Like, and well, what it's actually telling me is the fact that whenever it comes to understanding about music, though, that yeah, that whenever you do think about music a lot of times, that you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, that whenever you first start working on this, you will want to know too that how many people, how many viewers, how many of your audiences are going to be approaching that idea by as toward, okay, yeah, whenever you do think about a song and you're 102, that okay, yeah, that you're trying to memorize the lyrics and everything to that song and everything, but just knowing is to where that whenever you do think about the song a lot of times, is that with the song right here, that you go ahead and color in right there. I'm like, yeah, the music artist, and you may not know exactly what they look like there at first, but it sure seems that way. That if you actually were to paint a picture of somebody with a beard, talking, through a microphone, to, something like that right there, really, what does that really tell anybody necessarily? And like everybody else might say, is to where that yeah, that that could also be a minister, that could also be somebody like maybe a principal or somebody like that, but still, it's like you may want to know too that whenever you're talking through a microphone like that, it's possible that somebody might say is to where that yeah, that maybe not everybody is really going to understand the details to something at first until you saw it as to where that you go ahead and say that you're going to go ahead and talk to the microphone just to tell your audience about the details about that. Like, yeah, I wrote the song, or yeah, that I. But still, it's like but it's like every time you do think about that and want to know about your art, right? That you may want to know too. Everybody might say is toward, yeah. If you look real closely at this at this image right here that you would see right here. That if you paint the details right there of the beard of the person, of the beard right there, really, that how does that really approaches everybody's attention whenever it comes to music? And everybody might say is that yeah, well, really, that whenever you paint the details of the beard right there, it's almost like that you're trying to get the painting to smile, smile at the audience, and have it smile back or something like that. Whenever you do go to a lot of these concerts, by the way, it sure seems that way that a lot of your listeners and anybody who's a top fan of a lot of those music artists would even say too that whenever it comes to music that you go ahead and paint the details right there of the beard right there in 102 is that really how fascinating is that whenever you do paint the details right there and knowing that it's going to actually remind you of a few of the music artists that you've heard on the radio. And so 102 is toward that it reminds me of it reminds me of our favorite moment or something like that, or it reminds me of that special trip that we had or something like that. So it's so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that really a lot of music artists might even say is to where they go ahead and write a song to express their true feeling about a relationship, or maybe maybe a special trip that they made recently or something like that. So it's every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that what exactly is it that this person is thinking about if you actually wrote the song for them, and let's just say that while you were painting this picture that I would like to show you the original before that So let's just say that this right here was supposed to be like what you call a painting right here, but everybody might say is toward you were painting this picture right here, but you were actually working on this mainly over the fact because that it was remind you, you were trying to work on a portfolio, but then it was remind you of a music artist that you heard about on the radio. So every time you do think about that, and people might want to know too, that whenever you do paint a picture of maybe of a country star or somebody like that, and you're warned to where that every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that with a lot of the country music though, and any other sorts of hip hop music though, and people want to know too that a lot of graphic designers would want to know too that why do you think that it would be really fascinating to see these singers, you paint a picture of them while they're on stage, while they're performing live on stage, and then go ahead and paint the picture of the microphone right there. And somebody's gonna maybe say is toward if you're live on recording, right, and maybe if you have your audience, you got your audience that's looking. I'm if you got your viewers that are listening to what you're broadcasting, right? And so let's just say if you are broadcasting live on a live recording station, for sure that a lot of your listeners are going to say is toward that we're live on the air, I'd like to interview. And so it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that, and people may want to know too that so every time you think about that, and you're warned to where that if you were to actually paint a picture of somebody with a beard, I'm one of the singers. And so it's every time you do think about that, and you want to know too that you paint a picture right there, and with a microphone. And So it sure seems that way that, like everybody else might say that, you would use it maybe for a front cover for a collage, for like maybe for a music, for a poster design, right? Maybe for a poster design, for if anything, for a poster design. And like everybody else might say, is toward, every time you think about music, though, that's gonna kind of get to your mind to where that you go ahead and paint a picture right here, and let's just say that this person right here, I'm like, yeah, that they're gonna be talking, right? But still, that at least like everybody says, to where if you're gonna be building, if you're gonna be doing any sorts of concert or any other sorts of events, for sure that they would ask you to go ahead and include about maybe 5 or 10 images of like maybe a live concert night or something like that, maybe going to the dinner party or something like that. But this right here is a design that I came up with right here mainly because of the fact whenever it comes to music artists, a lot of music artists would even say too that the first thing that you think about whenever you do write a song or think about a song is to where like, yeah, for I love you or something like that, for love, love we share or something like that, and memories that we share. And so every time you do think about that, and you're one oh two, that that every time I think about music, a lot of times it sure seems that way. That what's the first thing that's going to be coming to your mind whenever you do think about music? Is that what do you think that those audiences are thinking about whenever you first start singing something? Like, what about memories that we share or something like that? So it's like, so every time you do want to think of a song, you want to go ahead and maybe write a few paragraphs, like, and how do you think the song will begin by? But it's like, people might say is to where you go ahead and paint right here. Like you go ahead and paint a picture right here of somebody singing. And so I'll go ahead and put right here as a dark brown right here. But it's like, yeah, so every time you think about that, and you want to know too that, you go ahead and paint a picture right here of somebody with a microphone singing right here, right? And like everybody else would say is to where, a lot of people would say they would approach your artwork just by, you would paint a picture, and they'll say is to where, okay, yeah, you paint a picture for what reason? What's that for? And so it's like, yeah, I paint a picture right here, and you go ahead and paint a picture right here in 102. That the first the first thing that you're going to be painting a picture of, if anything, would be is to where if somebody, somebody who was singing, but then you would have a microphone right here. So everybody says to where, yeah, go ahead and paint, go ahead and paint a picture of a microphone right here, and then you got the microphone right there, and then like everybody says to where if you're going to be actually working at an actual radio station, for sure that there'll be a microphone right here, and like everybody else would say is toward it, yeah, if you're going to have a microphone right there, and then having somebody broadcast live and thinking is toward, okay, yeah. So it's like whenever you first started singing and thinking about a song that what you want to sing to your audience, for sure that you might even say is toward, okay, before you started singing the song, for sure that you were telling everybody that this was one of the songs that I recorded from the lab, from my studio. This was a song that I recorded from my studio that I don't think everybody has heard of it, and has heard it yet, and so maybe that's another reason why, like everybody says, to where if you're going to go ahead and paint a picture of something, and then maybe everybody else might say is to where that while you're going to be and maybe everybody might even say that some of those songs were not published yet, and maybe were not broadcast yet, so that's why it seems like a lot of these music artists might even say that hey, if I'm going to be going up live on a news station for any reason at all, that I would like to go ahead and explain to everybody about about the song, and then of course what was for you, maybe from the recent vacation or something like that. So a lot of graphic designers would say that painting a picture of somebody right there, standing right there with a microphone, right, in U102, that why do you think that would be, which call maybe one of the most important parts of whenever it comes to designing, something, and like especially if we're talking about for music, right, for music artists, and they might say that well, really, that number one, that everybody might even say that whenever you do think about music artists, a lot of times that you might think is toward, okay, yeah, besides anything creative, that whenever you do think about music artists, a lot of times, that yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture of them, singing on stage right here, and then you go ahead and include another source of infographic with you included maybe a few of the speeches and the language, the lyrics, from anything that they talked about, et cetera, right? So it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that, and you're wondering to where a lot of these music artists might even want to know too, that if you're going to be broadcasting live on recording, right, and you're warned toward, okay, yeah, you're live on recording, meaning is toward anybody on that radio station, anybody who's going to be streaming live on on the web, from the website, right? Anybody who's going to be streaming live would be able to hear you, what you got to say. So, like, let's just say that everybody might say is toward, okay, yeah, that this is what our station would look like if we were recording live on from our studio, and so you would include something like an infographic, like something like this right here. But then those music artists would say is toward it, you would have something like a microphone right here. So it's like this. So each time you do think about that, and everybody else might say is toward, okay, yeah, that while you were painting that picture, for sure, you were actually you were painting the beard. You were actually working on the beard. Like yeah, you would give the music artist a beard. Give him a beard and a mustache, and people want to know too is toward, okay, yeah, for any reason at all, why do you think that you would want to go ahead and I'm like, yeah, if you want to go ahead and paint a picture of any music artist, for sure, you go ahead and paint the details right there of the beard, and like everybody says toward, well, really, that why do you want to put that much detail into the beard for any reason at all? Like, what's the purpose for that? Well, one of those purposes, of course, would be is to where it matches with the smile. Yeah, would you tell those music artists that the details of the beard would really match up with the smile, but then also that that whenever you do buy the music, by the way, it seems like everybody else might say that if you talk to one of those music artists, maybe if you go to a concert, if you went to a concert recently, that you would notice that if you went to a concert, that people might say that you go ahead and put a little bit of detail right there of the beard and all, and just want to know too that yeah, that maybe just a few shadows and everything, and people may want to know too that yeah, you go ahead and paint in the details right there, and want to know too that yeah, why did you put so much work right there for the beard? I'm like, yeah, you got the beard right here, but like everybody might say that every time you do think about a lot of these music artists, by the way, it's like you go ahead and paint the picture right there, and then you include a microphone right there. And people may say too is toward, yeah, you would actually do that just because of the fact that if they're live in the studio, or yeah, if they're broadcasting live, from that local radio station or somewhere like that, and that's one of the reasons why that people say a lot of these music artists would say is to where they would go ahead and do that, to where they would paint the picture right there, and then they would put a microphone right there, and you would say something like, yeah, we are broadcasting live, and I'm like, yeah, we're broadcasting live, and So you would say something like, yeah, you would say something like that right there. I'm like, oh yeah, something like says it like that. I'm like, yeah, broadcast. We're broadcasting live, and yeah, we're broadcasting live, and so it's like, yeah. So every time you do think about that in 102, that you may have been used to back in the old days that those 8-track CDs, and maybe those the MP3 player that well, most of us, when we do listen to music nowadays, it seems like that we might be used to plugging in our iPods and our MP3 players a lot of times just to be able to listen to music, right? And I say, yeah, it's okay to do that, but still, it's like, but still, broadcasting live, listening live, and so it sure seems that way, that whenever you do think about that, and people may want to know too, really, what does that mean whenever you say broadcasting live? That means is toward yeah, that anybody who's tuning in, from the live streaming service, anybody who's streaming, connecting to that radio station, through the internet, and maybe worldwide, maybe internationally, that anybody who's going to be listening to this person broadcasting, right? And so that's why it seems like that. You may want to know too that if that really helps out a lot, to where that you would include like an image, like a little painting right here, like everybody says, to where yeah, whenever you broadcast live, for sure, that pretty much means is that yeah, anybody who's connected to that anybody who's getting actual live feeds to that station, for sure, will be able to hear you talking to that microphone right there. So it sure seems that way, that every time you do think about that, and people want to know too, that number of times, based on your experience, for sure, that you may be used to broadcasting privately, maybe from your own home studio, but still, it's like a lot of these music artists might say that before that recording was actually published, to where that a live audience would be able to hear that music artist sing, that this radio host would also say is to where that, yeah, we're broadcasting live, and like here in St. Louis, or we're performing live in New York or somewhere like that, and so that's why it seems like that each time you do think about that, you hear about these music artists a lot of times, and people want to know too, that what exactly is it that you're thinking about whenever you do hear these songs a lot of times? Does that kind of take you back to whenever you were a young teenager in high school or something like that? So a lot of times it's like, yeah, like everybody says that every time you think about that, and want to know too that yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture right there, and think as to where, yeah, that a lot of these music artists that you've heard of, and want to know too that, yeah, whenever you first heard this song, you were thinking as to where that a lot of the lyrics and everything about the song, that like, yeah, everybody says to where if you were to actually memorize the lyrics to a song, or maybe think of a song, and want to know, maybe not everybody is really going to understand what this means until you kind of explain to them a little bit about what you were talking about, there at first. But it's like, yeah, so it's like every time you think about a song, though, that you would first start out with something like this right here. If it's a Christian song or a love song, you would go ahead and start out with is to where you go ahead and paint a picture right here of somebody, yeah, of a couple singing, or just a country star singing right here, and you would paint the microphone right there, and everybody would say is to where, okay, yeah, you go ahead and do something like that, and 102 that you would maybe recommend, go ahead, and I'm like, yeah, if it's supposed to be maybe a concert, maybe at the live, broadcasting live at the studio or something like that. So it's like, so every time you think about that, for sure, but it sure seems that way, that whenever you first start working on something like this right here, that yeah, you were painting that, just to kind of like, yeah, but still, but you were one to talk about music artists. So it's like whenever I was painting this, I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, every time you hear on the radio, a lot of these music artists, by the way, what exactly is it that's going to remind you of a particular music artist? And everybody else might say is toward it. That yeah, if you're going to go ahead and paint a picture of a song by a music artist, for sure, that if you want to go ahead and sing along to that song, or if anything, just go ahead and paint the microphone right there, and they say you go ahead and paint that, like, yeah, if you want to go ahead and memorize, like, yeah, memorize that we share. And so it's like, yeah, that but broadcasting live right here on radio station. But anyway, I know that a lot of the music that you can buy nowadays, it sure seems that way. It's like, yeah, you can actually buy it online, right? And then, but you'll listen to it, but still, it's like, but every time you think about music, a lot of times, it's like, yeah, anybody who really want to sing along to the music, for sure. But like everybody says, to where while you're going to be listening to music, a lot of times, you're going to go ahead and paint the picture right here. And it's like, say, yeah, you go ahead and paint the details right there of the picture right there. And I want to know, too, what exactly is it that your audiences are thinking about, necessarily? And I say that, yeah, that what they're maybe thinking about is that, yeah, that, if you can go ahead and zoom in real closely right there, and want to know, too, that, if you're trying to give up the beard, like you allow the beard, with the match with the smile right there. That right there is supposed to be an example right there of a country, a country music artist, or yeah, Vance Joy, or if it's supposed to be any other source of singer, broadcaster. And so yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you go ahead and just start painting a picture, and want to know too that yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture right there, and you go ahead and paint paint the microphone right there. Show a picture of a microphone right there, and like everybody says toward it, yeah, that you actually were talking to that microphone, for sure. But like everybody says toward that, a lot of these music artists, by the way, would say is toward it that that they would like to actually sing live or broadcast. Like, yeah, so it's like. So whenever it comes to broadcasting live and understanding about the typical music artist, right? But that's one thing I want to tell everybody about, is that that while you're listening to music, a lot of times, that you go ahead and paint a picture, right? And you want to know too that what is your opinion about some of these music artists, for sure, and knowing about whenever it does come to music, though, that whenever you have a lot of these music artists that are going to be singing a song, a lot of times, is that, yeah, what exactly comes to your mind whenever you do think about a lot of these music artists, by the way? And like, yeah, well, quite a few of those music artists, seems like that they talk a lot about relationships, or they talk about maybe a recent job or something like that. So every time you do hear these songs, a lot of times, it's like, you're always want to know too that, if you were to actually write a song, for sure, why can't it really be about classmates? Everybody might even want to know too that if you're going to be writing a song, any sorts of song, really, why can't it be about classmates? Somebody that you went to school with and you actually wrote a song for them. Just to let you know something about me, or something like that, or like, yeah, something. Why can't it be about classmates? Why can't it maybe be about field trips, or maybe that special event or something like that? So it sure seems that way, that every time you do hear a lot of the real good songs on the radio stations nowadays, that, why don't you hear too often about, yeah, about relationships, about classmates? like whenever you went to school those years ago, it's like, yeah, I love rock and roll, so put another dime in a jukebox, baby, or something like that. So it's like, yeah, so every time you do hear a lot of these songs that you're always 102 is toward you hear these songs that talk about relationships. You hear them talking about breakups and maybe going to the house party or something somewhere like that. But how often are you really going to be hearing about songs going to the library or maybe meeting at the cafe or the mall or somewhere like that? Like maybe meeting at the mall, but it's like but every time you do think about that in year 102, is that yeah, that whenever you used to sing music, by the way, you got the idea of music just by singing along, just by knowing about the fact about that whenever you do think about music a lot of times, is that you actually a lot of your listeners would approach your idea mainly because of the fact that they were looking at what you were working on, and it's like was it over the fact about that you got a good voice and a sense of humor or something like that, or like everybody else would say is toward I'm just curious to know what is it that you were working on. So it's like, yeah, so if you were to actually write a song and maybe write in a few of the lyrics right there, like for memorize that yeah, the memories that we share and something like that. And so if you're going to go ahead and include maybe a few lyrics of a song like right here, maybe like on the side or somewhere like that, and you're always 102 that anything that you're going to be working on for sure, that the first thing that you're going to be warned is toward it, well, I don't really know that the person that you're making that painting for, do they really have to like what you're doing? Or if anything, like everybody says, toward it, yeah, I didn't give it to you right away because I didn't think that you were going to like it, so I went ahead and redid it, or I got you something else or something like that. So every time you do think about music a lot of times, everybody might say is toward it, well, really, you would feel maybe more comfortable toward you can actually talk to them in person, so that way you can explain to them about what is it that you have, and then something that you've been working on, right? And but it's like, yeah, so every time you think about something like this right here, and like everybody says toward it, yeah, if you want to go ahead and work a little bit right there with the eyes right there, but it's like, yeah, you think about a lot of these music artists, by the way, and 102 that, yeah, you go ahead and paint that, that do a little bit of work right there with the eyes. And 102 that, yeah, work with the eyes. And you're warned to where that, yeah, that, what exactly is it that's really telling your audience? Whenever you do paint the picture like that right there, and then you include maybe a few lyrics right there, and somebody might say is toward, okay, yeah, if you put a little bit of more artistic detail right there, for the look right there, and people might say is to where, yeah, what exactly is it that's telling everybody? And if I say that, yeah, well, really, that what it's telling all of us is that yeah, are you curious to know? And so yeah, if that right there was supposed to be an example of a typical music artist for sure, that it's like yeah, every time you do think about that, and you're 102s to where that yeah, the eyes right here are supposed to speak to the heart. Yeah, the eyes are supposed to speak to the heart, and the heart is supposed to speak to the microphone or something like that. I mean, you always 102 that every time you come up to these situations to where if you're trying to express it to somebody, you would want to sing, talk to them, sing them a song or something like that. How does it all start? Does it really start by, really, what is the other person thinking? It seems like that's, most of the time that's usually what it is, right? What do you think that other person is thinking about whenever you do, if you're going to be working a painting right here, and want to know too that the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is okay, well, what's it for? And, but still. So it's like, yeah, so every time you think about that and want to know too that, okay, yeah, that you go ahead and pick a favorite music artist, and people want to know too that you go ahead and paint a picture right here, and want to know too is toward it, yeah, how does the music begin right here? And I'll go ahead and work right here with the smile right here so we can all see. But it's like, yeah, so it's like, so every time you think about that, and everybody else is maybe going to say too that, yeah, that memories that we share, and so yeah, so every time you think about that, then people want to know too. While you're singing along to the music, you're going to go ahead and be working on painting a picture, right? And that painting right there, is that really supposed to tell anybody or tell that person anything? And I want to know too that, yeah, does the mind speak up by the heart, or does the heart speak, through the mind, or something like that? So it's like, yeah. So every time you do think about music, though, that you're always want to know too that talking to that microphone right there, and you just don't really know what your audience is thinking about necessarily. So that's why it seems like, every time you do think about that, and especially on a greeting card, you put in the details right there of the nose and in the mouth right here, with the mustache and the eyes right here, and everybody else is maybe going to say is to her, okay, yeah, I get it. You wrote that song, for who, and okay, yeah, it's the country singer by the name of yeah. So if you know any of those other music artists that that you heard about on the radio stations, right? And so it's like, yeah. So a lot of these other music artists, by the way, it's like, yeah. If you're familiar with a lot of them, quite a few of them, and at 102 that you talking to that microphone right there, and everybody else is maybe going to say is toward it. You don't really know what to say at first until, like, yeah. So it's like, everybody say if you're going to be talking to that microphone for sure, that you go ahead and say that, well, I need I need my guitar just to be able to sing the song. And like a lot of times it's like, a lot of the other music artists, by the way, would say that to where that while they're going to be recording, by the way, that they say that that they would feel comfortable if they had maybe a set of drums or maybe a guitar where they can where they can sing their song. And so every time you think about that, and think as to where, yeah, if they had a guitar and maybe a set of drums or maybe a violin or something like that. And so that's what it seems like that every time you think about that, and you're one or two that you go ahead and paint a picture right there while you're singing along to a song, and want to know that, okay, yeah, that that's really that you really, who's this painting supposed to be a painting of? And so it's like, yeah, I tell everybody that there's a lot of music artists, by the way, that I listen to, by the way, Vance Joy. And there's also other few other music artists that yeah, Imagine Dragon, and other music artists that I've heard of. But it's like but every time you do think about that, and everybody says toward it that whenever you do think about music, a lot of times is that what exactly is it that you're thinking about whenever you do hear these these songwriters on the stations a lot of times. And it's like, yeah, you go ahead and paint a picture right there of what they look like. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, you go ahead and paint yeah, it looks just a little bit cartoony, right? But still, you go ahead and paint a picture right there, and everybody's going to say is to where that, really, where does the music actually start from? It's like to where that, you have somebody you're talking to the microphone right there, but then they're going to say is to where I wrote the song for you. I wrote the song for you, and I would like you to sing. I would like for everybody in the audience, to be able to hear the song, and I wrote the song for you, and so every time you think about that, and want to know too that that like everybody else might say that the reason why maybe some music artists would prefer that is maybe because that that they're not going to understand at first what you were singing, what you were doing, and so that's why it seems like a lot of times that you want to know too that a lot of music artists, by the way, would even say is toward okay, yeah, that you go ahead and you write a song, but then of course it's like so it's like yeah, so you go ahead and paint a picture like yeah, you go ahead and think by the heart or by the mind about what you want to say and what you want to sing to your audience, right? And it sure seems that way that whenever you think you look at like yeah, from the eyes and then from the nose and from the mouth right here, and what exactly is it that you're trying to say to the person? And somebody might say is to where that well yeah, I love you or something like that. That's usually what you hear a lot of times too. Is that somebody might say is to where if you were actually yeah, I love you, and so a lot of times yeah, you would hear something like that. You would hear yeah, especially on a greeting card, that you would hear something like that. But yeah, you were really you were too shy to say it at first. So everybody might say is to where that yeah, that every time you think about that, and somebody might say is to where that you were trying to tell some. I'm like yeah, if you were actually were to be making you singing a song or making a speech to somebody that you really you want to share your memories for, and maybe somebody that you really cared about, and it's like you didn't tell them at first just because of the fact that you didn't know what their first impression was going to be, and so really, what are the best ways of how to fix that? Like everybody else might say, is to where that you like everybody else might say is to where that doesn't usually help out a lot to where you can actually paint a picture. Like yeah, you can actually make something, or you do yeah, write a song for them or something like yeah, you show something that shows about true courage and true love. So it's like yeah, so every time you think about that, and people want to know too, yeah, they're not really going to understand until they realize what is it that you were working on, and so that's why it seems like that everybody says to where that whenever you do think about a song, necessarily, maybe not everybody knows what exactly is it that you're thinking about, and that's why it seems like that you go ahead and paint a picture right here, and like maybe say yeah, you go and paint a picture right here of somebody singing right here, and 102 is to where yeah, giving a speech, and so yeah, the typical things we talk about, right? But anyway, talk about for I love you right here, and so yeah, so it's like so every time you think about that, and everybody else is maybe going to say is toward yeah, you didn't tell the person right away, about what you were trying to tell them right away, just because of what reason? Well, part of that reason was because of the fact that whenever it comes to understanding about what their first impression was going to be, as to where you don't know what they were thinking about, but anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and I talking about understanding about the about radio broadcast. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.